Welcome to the Quantum Awakening podcast, where we invite you to embark on a profound exploration of conscious evolution, human transformation, DNA upgrades, and the harmonious fusion of science and spirituality. Guiding you through this enlightening journey are your dynamic hosts, Sharon and Amanda Bowden. With their extensive knowledge and expertise, they will serve as your trusted leaders of knowledge. Sharon, with her deep spiritual insight and celestial race knowledge, will shed light on the mystical aspects of your existence. Meanwhile, Amanda will share her expertise around manifesting, mind-body-soul connections, and how science and psychology are intertwined with spirituality. Join us on a transformative journey to enhance your perspective and to bring you enlightenment.
Welcome to our podcast, Quantum Awakening, Exploring Conscious Evolution. And your hosts today is Sharon and Amanda, which is me, and Amanda Bowden.
Hey.
And we hope you got your cups of tea and coffee ready to enjoy this next half an hour or so with us. And our subject today is guides. Now, that single word is absolutely huge. So what do we mean by guides? We're not talking girl guides here. We're talking spiritual, celestial.
I'm ready to laugh anyway.
So I made Amanda laugh now. Universal guides. So I'm going to kick off with the subject, and if you've listened to any others, you'll realise we just sit and talk to each other about the subject, but we actually give over to you our knowledge of what we know and what we have experienced, because we find this is really helping people from the feedback we've been getting.
Yeah, and it's literally like we just come in and have a cuppa and catch up. So you're coming into our little life.
Yep. So guides are beings that help look after us when we're on the earth plane, and you understand them as universal guides.
Yeah.
My guides call themselves celestial guides. Now, I think, talking to my guide John the other day, is that celestial guides are all universal guides, and the other way around. So it's just how they interpret themselves, because they're individuals with intelligence.
Yeah.
So a guide, which is a guide that helps us through our life, is either what we call a physical, multi-dimensional, transitional being, or a light, multi-dimensional, transitional being.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, I'm really glad I got that right. So the physical, multi-dimensional, transitional being is a being that lives in physical form on a higher dimensional plane than we do in our 3D reality. And I would say they usually start around the 5th up to the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. I've got 9 dimensions in existence. The multidimensional means that they can communicate and transcend through different dimensional layers of existence. And they can show themselves in ethereal body, which is, we understand, as a light body, or they can show themselves to us as physical form. And that showing themselves to us is either in our heads, through the third eye, as we understand it, or you will see them actually in the room, because they can appear to us. And the light multidimensional transitional beings are light conscious beings. It is different to the ethereal energy we were talking about a minute ago with the physical. The energy is a different type of energy. It's consciousness. They have intelligence, very high intelligence. They can create physical presence as well as light. I don't even know how to explain them. They're way beyond our understanding. My guide John is one of these. When you're born, you have a inner guidance ring. I've got a piece of paper in front of me just to remind me of this, because there's so much knowledge. You have what you call a gatekeeper. Now, sometimes the gatekeeper can get confused with the higher self. So the higher self we're going to very briefly mention, but we are going to do another podcast about this subject, aren't we? Higher self and soul connection.
Massive.
So the higher self is a light being or a physical being that chooses to guide you through your life, knows your plan, and basically is like an overseer of you. And they do a reflection of their energy, which creates the soul. And the soul within you is a really high, beautiful energy that's there to guide you into spiritual understanding while here on earth. Now, the gatekeeper is literally like a gatekeeper. He opens when needed to the higher energies and shuts the door when not needed. He looks after your energy, or she or them look after your energies and guide you through your life, and are there as the backdrop, and they're always there to the day you pass over back to your energy source of home.
So would you like call them, like some people might call them, like a guardian angel?
Yeah, they can be known as guardian angels, very common names for them.
Yeah.
They can present themselves in any form.
That's cool.
And also the gatekeeper will have two other guys that come in with them, and they stay with you. They're not so prominent. They laughingly, when they say it to me, call them the runners. So these are guides which are in and out. They're on the outskirts, they're watching, they're supporting the gatekeeper, and the gatekeeper might say, right, this person's starting university next week, we need to now trigger another guide that's going to help with her education, let's go and sort that out. And it's like,
okay.
yeah, so it's like,
and that's why we get different guides then coming in and out
through our lives, our childbirth, whatever you're going through. You might need more healing guides at one time. So these guides stay with you. Other guides can come in and out.
That makes sense.
And they can come back again later on. So that they call that the inner guidance ring for you. We briefly said about changing guides. You have a change of guides all through your life. Most humans will be completely unaware of this, because they're not connecting or anything. But when you're on the path of connection, spiritual connection, ascension, you're a light worker, a healer, a Reiki, or you're just actually more attuned to the lighter energies, you might have awareness of these guides coming in and out, and they can actually affect your energy. So you could actually feel a little bit off colour, you could have a headache, you could feel achy, but it's normal because they've got to interact with your energy for the first time. Okay. The guides that have been there from day one, there's none of that will happen. Yeah. The longer your guide is with you, the more adapted they come and you come to them. Outer ring guides are the guides that have a mixture of purpose, healing, seeking knowledge for the Earth mission. And again, as we've already said, these will come in and out when needed for your life path as needed. So like I've had John now for 5 years, and he was my catalyst for me. He completely changed everything for me when he appeared.
And he's funny.
We also have something called animal guides and elemental beings. Again, this can be another podcast on its own one day.
Yeah.
Animal guides are beings that exist more in the 4th, 5th dimension. They run alongside our energies on Earth, because Earth is known as a realm of energy, and within that energy are dimensional layers. And they choose to be with us and help us because their energy is more connected to Mother Earth, nature, and grounding. So animal guides are there with us. We've all got them. If you're drawn to dogs, horses, owls, it might be you've actually got an animal guide that's one of those.
Well, I was going to add to that as well, is that like my dog, when we've gone for walks sometimes and he's gone off on a random one, will take me to somewhere where I need to go on a walk. So sometimes it's like not only the metaphysical side,
it's the physical.
It's the physical animals as well.
Yeah, you're right. It's and also staying on the, I can't say that word,
metaphysical.
Yeah, levels are elemental beings.
Okay.
So fairies, goblins, mermaids, and I've got a unicorn guide. I've seen her.
Ooh.
Yeah. She presented herself when I did the fairyologist course, and has been with me ever since.
They're supposed to be really pure, aren't they? Really.
Yeah, it's a lovely energy.
Yeah.
And dragons and all of these are things that exist on Earth in ancient times that chose to elevate themselves into another level of existence because humanity as humans degraded down into 3D energy over time. Unfortunately, because they worked one time on a higher energy level, they became fearful.
Well, this is why I always say to people, because like I'm like, well, logically, unicorns must have been around physically, because if you think about it, we've got rhinos and different animals with horns anyway. So why
Yeah.
not? Why not a unicorn?
If you look at the history of humanity, go into India, China, and whatever, a lot of them will have present history of these animals, and especially dragons. Dragons were seen through many civilizations in ancient times, and they still go through their history. They're understood and interpreted and worshipped.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because like Edinburgh is well known around the symbol of the unicorn.
And also, you mentioned your dog. Now, that is, the physical side of the Earth human guides, Earth animal guides are the physical.
Yeah.
So we can have human guides that come in literally for 1 minute.
But this is
half an hour.
Yeah, this is
a
exactly
day.
what I've been doing on my lives on like Facebook and stuff. Like when I'm giving out messages saying that there's not only like our guides that are metaphysical who give us guidance, but it's also our loved ones who are around us in the physical, as in people and the dogs.
Yeah, that's I know I'm here as a guide to my oldest granddaughter, because she's going to be very spiritual, as you are to your daughter.
Yeah.
I've also my one of my sons who can link and do a lot of what we do. And you are set in place for those reasons. And animals I got a dog called Boyd, who's passed now. He was a golden retriever. I had two, Gemma and Boyd. Boyd came along, and he was here for about 2 years, my life. And then I started the channeling and the writing.
Okay.
And he was always with me. Like if I did my walks, I had to walk my dog separately because of my back. I couldn't walk them together because they'd pull it. So whenever I was on a walk with him, I started channeling. Of course, I didn't realise back then.
No,
I was recording it and writing it down, and that was the catalyst for the first book, Utopia. Now, as I went through time, and then sadly 3 years ago he passed away, I sat outside after 2 or 3 days of him gone and said to my guides, can I see him? Is he okay to come forward? So the first time I did that, I saw him at a distance from me, surrounded by Chris's mum and dad and my mum and dad in the energies, and they were protecting him. He didn't come forward, he stood back, but I could see him. Okay, so I waited a bit longer and I sat again. It was out in the garden again. I've got a special bench which was my dad's, I sit on. And the next time he came, my guide stepped forward and they said, right, we're going to show you something a little bit different now you really aren't going to expect. I went, okay, we're going to show you the higher self of your dog.
No way.
Yeah. Now everybody thinks dogs don't have souls of higher selves, but they do.
Yeah.
A lot of animals do. Different levels. But he had a really highly ascended higher self. And this being, because he wasn't human, he looked human form, but he wasn't from Earth, very tall.
Yeah.
Stood there and with sort of curly hair and very wise looking man, I suppose I'd call him a man, stepped forward. Didn't speak to me, but they said that he's going to carry on with you now on your journey. So he's a guide. So his higher self stayed as a guide to help with the writing. Cool. And they said that Boyd was an antenna, so his energy boosted the channeling with this higher self help him. And he always used to be at the side of me whenever I wrote. He was always there. I look back at it now and I think, oh my God, yeah. And then the energy changed, because I said, well, how can I do it without Boyd?
Yeah.
And they said, well, you're now so advanced with your connection, you don't need him anymore.
Oh,
sounds a bit egotistic, that, doesn't it?
No, not really.
So he was one of my Earth guides.
Wheels.
Yeah, it's cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
The other thing I've got to mention is the guides, the unison guides. Now, during times on Earth, our guides, or they're called intergalactic council, that help to look after us, or the guides are in and under, help her monitor Earth. And Earth was left for quite a few hundred years to go its own path, hoping we'd ascend. But unfortunately, we decided to bomb each other and kill each other in the First and Second World War. So the higher councils and the guides all got together and went, really, we're failing humanity. We're gaining ourselves from the experiences we're gaining from incarnation, but we're not helping them. It's getting worse. So they restructured themselves and decided how to look at everything. And they brought forward what we call a unison guide. So we all have one, but the unison guide, we could have the same one. And usually they link up with the people you're working with or family, and they oversee the running of the guides, the way it's all working, connecting with the intergalactic councils, and make sure everything's working okay. So it's a bit like in a workplace, you've got some in the HR department. Yeah. It's like having HR, but in our guides. Now, unison also comes into the energy space of existence, because when we run a group or a circle or a church and guides are coming in, the guides are coming in from different sources of existence, physical, light, different planets, different levels. So they create what they call a unison space, and these guides help with this, and it's an energy space where they can all exist.
I remember you saying about that.
It's beyond our technology, the understanding of it.
Yeah.
But and they have starships that are created like this, and space stations with these spaces in.
And like when you talk like this, I think about like Star Trek and different things. And
It's very sci-fi. I know. Yeah, it's very sci-fi. So that's a very quick rundown. Now, guides, how do you know you've got a guide? So do you have any experience of when you first remember you got a guide?
Weirdly enough, now you said that, because I was talking to a lady in work, because people are starting to ask me questions because they're like randomly wondering what's going on. And she said, because I said, oh yeah, my guides helped me book my holiday, blah blah. She was like, what do you mean when you say that? I was like, I keep forgetting I say it. I said it's just normal now because I've been doing the podcast and everything.
Yeah.
So I had to explain then, because I was like, right, I communicate with my guides through numbers. And I remembered then that I said, you know what, that's not where I started. That was, I've been doing this for like 9-10 years now, connecting and communicating and developing. And I was like, actually, if you just ask for a sign, I said, because when I started doing meditation, first of all, I used to ask for a guide to come in. And I didn't know what it was at the time, because it was just like a cool breeze. And I was like, ooh. So I was saying to this lady who I work with, sometimes it can come in as a cool breeze. And that's the very beginning before anything else, because they do it through levels, don't they? With what you can cope with. And
yes, exactly.
Bring it up. And I remember sitting in my bedroom doing meditation, and I was asking for a name of who it was, and it was Alan. And I was like, can't be Alan. Alan's like too normal for a guide's name. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah.
And then when I came to you to do like some workshops and stuff, and you came through, and I was like, oh my God, it is actually Alan. And then further on down through like what you've been explaining, I learned that he was my gatekeeper.
Yeah.
And he's still here, and he acts as a counsellor in my team.
Cool. My gatekeeper's called Harold. He's a monk.
There you go.
He's a medieval monk, and when I started the journey with Reiki and meditation after the past life experience regressions, and the Reiki I saw light beings for the first time. I was allowed to see him probably for about half an hour, and then I've never seen him again. This is with my eyes. I see him in my mind. I have very clear vision in my mind.
That's cool.
And Harold, I went to my first trance workshop, and the lady running it sort of put us into a meditation with some nice calming music just to relax us.
Yeah.
And just call your guide in, sort of instructions. And then all of a sudden I felt my arm had changed into a man's arm. I felt it was like a hessian material, had a feather in my hand, like a writing feather, and in front of me were manuscripts. So I was like, oh my God, what's going on
So cool.
in my head? Not experienced anything like it. And I heard this voice say, my name is Harold, I'm your gatekeeper, and you're going to write a book. Well,
Straight up.
how I didn't laugh out loud and upset everybody, I don't know. So anyway, we came out of this meditation. Everybody was going, oh yes, I felt really calm, yes. And everybody was didn't say anything like well I'd experienced. So I didn't tell them what I'd experienced because I thought they'd think, because I thought they'd all think I was a complete nutball. I don't give a damn now about talking about it, because I realised now that was another catalyst on my journey of him coming in. Was like, whoa.
Definitely. You know. That's exactly where I'm at the minute, because like I'm talking out more loud because people are asking me questions. It's taken me a while to get you, because you kind of, like you mentioned the other week, like sometimes you don't know whether it's real, or because like other people are not experiencing what you're experiencing, so you don't know. Well, I don't know sometimes how to put in words without sounding crazy, but then it's just part of.
The other thing with our guides is some people say, I never feel a guide. I know people did trance and they were bringing guides through to talk. They never sensed their guides are there because they just completely trusted the experience. They had no doubt in their minds they were bringing their guides forward, but they didn't see who they were or anything. You don't have to know or see who they are. They don't have to give you names, but we get the names and we get images, if you're allowed to see them, because it needs to bring comfort. So for me, from the beginning, I always saw someone and was given a name. Because my way my mind works and my creativity and my imagination, I needed to have something solid to say, yes, I'm connecting to you. At that point, I wasn't trusting. I was questioning everything.
That's exactly what I was just going to say then. It's like I've learned this year that you not only need to build the trust with validation, it's like building the relationships as well. With like anybody really, is building that relationship and building that trust and rapport, and just allowing yourself to let go of what you think you know and learning new.
So most of our guides would have had an earth experience. So by that I mean incarnation. Because they need to experience the earth experience in the 3D reality for them to fully comprehend what they're dealing with us as individuals, because it's not easy, because they bang their heads against the wall half the time. And when John came, the first time he appeared in the middle of a field on a dog talk with Boyd, who's still alive then, he showed himself to me as his crazy professor, and I was like, oh my God, what's going on? He said, my name's John. And the energy just nearly knocked me off my feet. And it was like, whoa, okay, this is right in the middle of a video, you know. And I remember saying on the video about it happening, I don't even know if I got that video, and I don't know if I put it on Bengal Rose, the YouTube channel, I can't remember. But anyway, so as time gone by, that's how he presented to me, and I discovered in my trance when he used to come, or he does still come through, when he comes through, that he actually was one of his incarnated life. He had two. He had one in the 16th century where he was a young soldier and he died, and then he had this one when he died in his 50s of a heart attack. And then one day in the future, a while ago, when I was with my old trance partner, he came through before lockdown and said that I'm actually a light conscious being, and I will not be presenting myself in this human form anymore because you don't need it, because I'd progressed beyond needing that clarification. And now it's just what I call a knowing. It's like Cashiera was my Palladian guide. She came through trance the other day. She's helping me write my latest book, but I just know she's there. I don't need to have any other indication. It's just trusting that she's there with me.
Yeah, because like for me, whereas you see them, I don't see my guides generally. I feel their presence, and like when I was writing my first book, because I like to know how things work, I was like observing myself and using the book to like write down what I was going through. I can't think what you call it, but Carl Jung done a similar thing with his book.
Yeah.
And I found out that like, because our nervous system is like electrical. When they do actually come into our energy and touch us, they're using our nervous system, the energy in there.
Yeah.
So it feels like a little tingle because our nervous system runs through the whole of our body.
Midrim points.
Yeah.
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 Energy points. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's how
I'm
mine
gonna
touch.
plug one of my CDs now. Is that okay? I've actually got a CD I recorded that helps you connect with your guides. It's in a safe. You can do it at home. You set the intention. It's safe. And the exercise basically is quite straightforward. You basically sit in a calm, quiet space and you ask your guide to step into your energy. And then you ask them to step back. And then you ask them to step in again. And you learn to connect and build that trust with your guide. And then over time it can build and build and build. Another thing, guys listening out there, is to try connected writing with your guides. Sit down. Again, I always work in prayer, set the intention,
Yeah.
and then I say, can you give me some wisdom? And you just, and it could be one word. That's how I started out, and then I started writing essays, you know what I mean? So it's just trusting that journey with them.
Yeah, and that's how I started for you when I come to your workshops. We were doing like bringing the guides into your energy first, getting
Yeah.
to learn them, and like feel. And it was like a really calm feeling when they were coming in. I can't explain it now because I've forgotten it because it's changed. So
People
it's
get
different.
tingling, they
Yeah.
can feel heat, they can feel cold. I'm feeling cold at the moment, it's just because I felt the temperature drop, and I think it's because it's cold outside. I've got a draft going over my legs at the moment. I know that's energy that's just pulled in near me. So I still sense sometimes when I'm talking to somebody and my guides are giving me some information and it's right, I get a tingle go straight down my back.
Yeah.
And like clarification, that's correct. You just said the correct thing.
Kundalini
Yeah, and they
energy.
work with your senses. They work with your body. If you think about it, we're in a heavy 3D energy, and they're coming in for very highly defined, pure energy,
Yeah.
and they've got to learn to work with us, and we have to learn to work with them. If you want to connect with your guides, you have to work at it. It's not like I'll sit there and there it's happy days. You have to build that energy and build that trust.
Yeah, that's exactly what I explained it to this lady yesterday. Like, I forget sometimes when I'm explaining things to people and they might be starting out, I forget, oh my God, actually, I'm 9 years down my journey now, developing. And like I was saying, like some people come in and they're naturally awake and they already got certain parts of them already awake and they're doing it and developing on top of that. And then some people like myself who've waken up like a bit later in my late 30s.
Yes, me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got to work at it, haven't we?
Yeah.
I've had to work at everything I do. I've worked at it. I've questioned it all along the way.
Yeah.
I haven't just sat there and go, oh yeah, okay. I've gone kicking and screaming down this path.
That's the hero's journey.
But the reason I've had people say to me, I really wish I could see like you see. But you know, the end of the day, I've talked much to my guide John about all of this, and he said to me, the reason you have seen more is because you were teaching.
Yeah.
And you needed to see and understand to teach it.
That's your way of how you learn as well,
Yeah,
visually.
yeah.
Yeah.
And with other people, they don't need to know their guides. You just need, and it's a big ask, a big trust to trust that they're there. But they will give you signs. So guides will give you signs like feathers, coins, touch, music. Like of a loved one has just passed over, you might hear their favourite song. You can ask your guides for signs, support. You can ask your guides for healing for yourself and others. They're your support network in this life. You know, every human has got guides, and they're all sitting there with their arms folded, waiting for them to go, oh my God, I've got a guide, help me please. So when you do prayer, when you say a prayer, the first port of call, your prayer doesn't go straight up to God's source. Your prayer goes out to your guides.
Yeah.
And your guides filter your prayer. Is this right for their life at the moment? Can we help that person over there? Or do they need that lesson? So when you sorry, religious people out there, but when your prayer goes out there, you're not going straight to God. It's actually a filter system, because some things can be put in place and some things aren't ready. The other thing we should mention, guides can be loved ones that have passed over.
This is exactly what I was going to say, because like when you mentioned the network part, like I always say on my lives, because I use the words like universal team.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's like our guides are there for our personal life. They help me on my business life as well. And like you said, there's so many different guides that you're not aware of when you first start out. Like your loved ones that have passed over, like you said, guides who've had past earth life experiences that help you with where you are now, and they come in and out. Um, then like, so this is why I teach on my Master Miracle Manifester, because it's like the universal numbers and universal team are like the background of it. And then you've got your higher self as well, which come in later for me. But that's where you kick-started my journey doing the soul connection many years ago.
Yeah,
So
we're
that was
gonna
interesting.
do a podcast on that, aren't we?
Yeah.
Soul connection,
Yes.
higher self, because we mentioned a lot of things briefly today, but really it's another podcast in itself. So there's just so much knowledge we
It's
can
just
share with
massive.
you. Yeah,
And then like through, because the way I communicate with my guides, although it's changing slightly now, is through like numbers, what you guys might know as angel numbers, except taking them up a step further because we are in a quantum age. And so like the way that I've been taught, that I've learned in the last year or so, has come from like Lemurians. And they used to teach their young ones how to manifest because they're natural manifestors.
yeah.
And yeah,
Well, they
so
can,
that's how I communicate
once you
mostly.
go into your fourth dimension, your fifth dimensions, you can, in the Bible they talk about Jesus entering a room through a wall, walking through a wall. Now it's stories and I can't, but that is the fourth, fifth dimension type of reality.
Well, it's funny you should say that because like over the last couple of weeks, over the last year, because it's been really frustrating for me. I see words before things happen, and like I've been taking them as guidance. And I'm like, well, this is confusing me now. Like, you need to show me which is guidance for now, which is guidance for the future, and all this kind of thing, because it's
Yeah,
different
get mixed up,
timelines,
can't
and
it?
they give me dates and different things like that. And so, like, when I was walking the dog a couple of weeks ago, and I was walking up this pub, and I looked up, and I'd already asked this question, and I see the word up before they give me words on like number plates or different places. Like my intuition will pick up what I need to take on visually, because I learned visually as well. And then I seen 4D, and I was like, oh my god, you're tapping into the 4D energies, and I'm learning to stay in that reality as well at the same time as being
That's
in
where we're
3D.
at now. We're in the 4D energy.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my god.
And we're just knocking on the door of the 5.
Yeah.
It's
like, what the hell?
That's why we're buzzing.
Yeah,
we're buzzing.
My brain was like, oh my god. But then when I come back down and I calm down, I'm like, oh my god.
The other thing I've just been reminded to mention in all of this, if you do go down the route of connecting with your guides, going to somebody that does it on your own, grounding.
Yeah.
Grounding is really important. So I actually do on the CD have a grounding meditation as well.
Cool.
And it's all to do about bringing, we're talking about, we're drifting around in the 4th dimension now.
Yeah.
Because we've worked at it and we've got to that position. We're touching on the 5th. We really have to be careful because we can be buzzing and we're floating up, even going, like if I do a day of trance, you've got to have that half an hour where you ground yourself back down before you get in a car.
Yeah,
because it affects your energies.
And this is what I've learned of you, because I didn't realize when I'm learning all this stuff and I'm like, oh my god, again, like really excited.
Yeah,
I have to go for a walk then and bring myself back down because I've gone up too high.
Yeah.
So it's learning to know when you're like in the excitement energies. You can understand why your guys are like, oh yay, and they get really excited.
And a lot of the star children that have come in to help us, a lot of them running on these high energies. The guides are working really hard to try and keep them grounded, but they don't have the knowledge. They don't understand why they're here on that. So again, it's such a massive picture. And we were actually talking earlier, weren't we, about how when me and Amanda meet, we're like confirmation to each other that, or what you talked about last week, I've just heard someone else talk about. Yet you haven't heard that. You haven't listened to it. You wouldn't know that knowledge. So that all the knowledge is going out to people that needs to go up. It's going out into different formats, at different levels of being said in different ways, because humans are all different. And if you have it all in the same one way, only, say you had 1 million people, a few of them will understand that one way, but if you have 20 different ways, thousands will understand it, because it would connect differently with their brains and who they are.
That's exactly, like, this week I've realised, when you explained something to me last week, I heard it, but I didn't fully hear it because it wasn't explained in the way I would catch all of the information. And so, like, I eventually went and listened to an audiobook and it was explained slightly different.
So your guides led you to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh my God. And like the light bulb clicked on then. And I was like, and this week as well, when I was talking to a lady around like ADHD and autism, because I'm on like the Asperger's, they call it, or whatever you want to call it, high functioning, which I hate that.
You've been labelled, love.
I know. So I'm like, right, I don't like these labels, so I'm not going with these. So like for me, like when I look at like ADHD and ASD from my perspective, not all of it, because I understand, like, you know, it's totally different, the whole spectrum. But from where I am and where my daughter might possibly be, is like you said, because we're running on a higher frequency, we have
clashing with the 3D reality.
Yeah, so I have to meditate a hell of a lot more now than I used to, because we're doing this kind of work. And before I go to bed, I'll sit in silence and ask my guys to attune me, or when I'm going too high now, because I've realised that's what it is. And like throughout my whole life, I've gone up in these hyper states and I'm like, don't know what's going on. So like my daughter's experienced the same thing. She doesn't like meditating at the minute, so we're trying to find a different way. But with actually, like, people put like labels like ADHD, ASD on things, and when you first start out looking at it, it can be like quite negative because of the 3D understanding. And then like my point of view is, because some of our higher selves are quite highly ascended and the frequencies are higher, there's nothing wrong with you. That's how we're coming in. And because we don't work, I know, we don't, oh my God, she's making faces.
we have a signal to each other that when we want to speak, we have to wave our hands around.
It's not, she's copying me because I do stimming.
You've got a very good comprehension of that. My guys are sitting there very excited behind me. I think they're all on a settee or something. I don't know what they're doing. Laughing the image I'm getting, but they're saying they're actually waiting for these people in this medical profession that are diagnosing all these people for the spirituality side of life to come and merge together, which would bring the greater understanding. And then that's an ascension point when that happens for humanity. Because they'll then understand why these children are the way they are, trying to deal with the 3D reality, but they're actually coming on a higher plane of existence. And once they have a spiritual understanding and these merge, humans will ascend, because you won't be pushed back down, given tablets and whatever. You'll be taught in a completely different way.
Which is why I always
Hence the spiritual schools that we need.
Oh yeah, that'd be me.
Yeah.
That's why I say, like, with ADHD, is like attention to dimensions higher. Anyway, just want to add on to the edge of that, because I always waffle and Sharon brings me back in, because when I get excited I just go off on one.
Like, do I? It's fine,
around like the guys and different things. So like when I say universal team, it's literally like a team that we've got behind us, which is why I always say our universal teams have our back, and they can include like the celestial ascension guides. So for me, like, I've got Tom, and he's coming more prominent now because he's helping with the ascension energies with myself and teaching other people. But I also channel Ben and the 12, so like the Council of Light, who are highly ascended consciousness of masters who like congregate and communicate with us, and their own races around the universe. And it's funny that you mentioned Jesus earlier, because Ben is actually Jesus who comes through, but I was like, no, I can't take that, because my head's like, no, that's too far-fetched for me. So it's like disconnected. But from what I've learned around doing research in religion and different things, like Jesus is name was Yeshua, but his middle name was Ben. So it's Yeshua Ben Jesus.
Oh, wow.
And so I was
didn't
like,
know that.
right, I can take Ben. That's
Yeah.
cool. That's normal for
But you
me.
don't want to say your guide's Jesus.
No. So it's like, I can't say I'm talking to Jesus. That just didn't resonate with my head. So I was like, you need to like.
Do you know, I was in a trance session once when somebody else brought that energy through.
Really?
Yeah, and talked to us. Yeah, it's quite interesting. Because he was a being that existed, he was a really highly ascended being. He did walk the earth plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's the one that, like, Sharon always talks about, like, the architect. Is it architect or the 12?
The architects, yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, that's where the Council of Light have come from, because there's 12 of them.
They were in Atlantis. They oversaw Atlantis as well. The 12 ones.
Yeah, and they're all throughout history. And
Yeah.
they're just books, just a different language. And they each come from a different place in the universe. But they're helping us with our ascension that's going on with Earth right now.
Cool.
Yeah.
I tell you guys, we touch on various things in this. We hope you enjoyed this session. It's if I've actually got a PDF here, I was scrunching around. Hope you didn't hear it too much. If you want a copy of it about the guides, if you email me at sharon@bengalrose.co.uk and just say, can I have a copy of your PDF of the guides? That's fine. You're more than welcome.
Yeah, we'll put the link
out.
in as well on the actual podcast too.
Cool.
And if you want to connect with me, because I've just got a different way of looking at things as a coach, and around neurodiversities, because I'm more around the holistic side.
Yeah.
You can go to my website, amandabowden.co.uk too.
Cool. But yeah, I think our info's on the podcast, isn't it? So that's great.
Yeah.
So we're going off for another cup of tea now, and we'll see you on the next podcast. Thank you for listening, everyone. Bye.